Today's video is over the rules of debits and credits. Debits and credits are the way that accountants talk. It's kind of the language of accountants. And you are going to need to know the rules of debits and credits. It won't take you long. This is not a difficult topic at all. But you can't go on unless you know the rules of debits and credits. It's our method of communication, is what it is. It's a way of indicating whether something is increasing or decreasing. Some basic rules of debits and credits. Debits are always on the left, credits are always on the right. That will be true 100% of the time. I said that debits and credits represent increases or decreases. Well, whether it represents an increase or decrease depends on the type of an account. In other words, for one kind of an account, it may represent an increase, a debit may represent an increase. For another kind of an account, a credit may represent an increase. So debits and credits represent increases and decreases, but whether it's an increase or decrease depends on the type of an account. So let's go through each of the 5 types of accounts. You know there are 5 types of accounts. Let's go through the rules of debits and credits for the 5 types of accounts, starting with assets. For assets, doesn't matter whether it's cash, accounts receivable, building, land, doesn't matter what asset. A debit represents an increase to that asset. And then, of course, the opposite is always true. If a debit represents an increase to an asset, then a credit will represent a decrease. All right, our second type of an account is a liability. Let's look at the rules for liabilities. Liabilities. A credit represents an increase in a liability, and then, of course, a debit would represent a decrease. Let's go to the third type of an account, owner's equity. Owner's equity has the exact same rules as liabilities. A credit represents an increase to owner's equity. Fourth type of account, revenues. Doesn't matter whether it's sales, interest revenue, fees earned, whatever you want to call it. We represent an increase in a revenue with a credit. And then our fifth and final type of an account, expenses. We represent an increase in an expense with a debit. All right, here's what I want you to do. We're going to use these rules. Take a note card or a piece of paper and just simply write the rules down. Just go through like I did here. Write down that a debit to an asset is an increase. Write down that a credit to a liability is an increase. Write down that a credit to owner's equity is an increase. Write down that a credit to revenue is an increase. And write down that a debit to an expense is an increase. We're going to take those rules and we're going to expand with them and go to our next topic.